The Chinese ambassador slammed the folder on her desk. "You're making a catastrophic mistake, Minister Takaichi. Without us, your economy collapses in 90 days. She opened her own folder and smiled. "Actually, it's already done. And you never saw it coming." Ambassador Wu Jianmin's face went from red to white in seconds. It was March 2023. Sanae's office in the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry. Outside, Tokyo buzzed with its usual energy. Inside, the temperature had dropped 20 degrees. "What do you mean, already done?" Wu demanded. Sanae slid a document across her desk. "This is the Japan-Taiwan-India Technology Alliance. Signed 2 hours ago. We've secured alternative suppliers for 87% of critical components currently sourced from China." Wu snatched the paper. His hands trembled as he read. This is impossible. These supply chains take years to build." "They do," Sanae agreed calmly, "which is why we started 18 months ago. But to understand how Sanae pulled off the impossible, you need to know what happened 18 months earlier. In a hotel room in Taipei. 18 months earlier, Taipei, Taiwan. The hotel was deliberately modest. No 5-star luxury that would attract attention. Just a business hotel near Taipei 101, the kind visiting executives use. Sanae checked in under a false name. Her security detail stayed 2 floors down. This meeting couldn't appear in any official record. At 11 p.m. there was a knock. She opened the door to find a woman in her 50s dressed in simple business attire. "Minister Takaichi," the woman said in perfect Japanese. "I'm Minister Wang, thank you for coming. Taiwan's Minister of Economic Affairs. Here in secret meeting with Japan's rising political star." They sat at the small table by the window. No pleasantries. No small talk. "China is weaponizing the supply chain," Wang said bluntly. "They've already cut off rare earth exports to pressure us. Japan will be next," Sanae nodded. She'd seen the intelligence reports. China controlled 90% of the world's rare earth minerals, essential for everything from smartphones to fighter jets. And they weren't afraid to use that power. "We can't fight them alone," Sanae said. "Neither of us can." "No," Wang agreed. "But together, with the right partners?" She pulled out a tablet. "Look at this." The screen showed a map of Asia. Red dots marked Chinese supply chain choke points. But there were blue lines connecting Japan, Taiwan, South Korea, India, and Australia. "This is what we could build," Wang said. "A counter-network. Alternative suppliers. Redundant systems. But it requires something China thinks we don't have, which is unity, trust, and the courage to start before we're sure we can finish." What nobody knew was that 3 other countries were in the same secret meeting. Over the next 6 months, Sanae made 7 unofficial trips, business conferences, cultural exchanges, personal vacations, each one a cover for secret negotiations. In New Delhi, she met with India's commerce minister in a private garden. "We have rare earth deposits in Rajasthan," he told her. "Undeveloped. We need Japanese technology to extract them efficiently, and we need a guaranteed buyer." In Seoul, South Korea's trade minister was cautious. "If China finds out we're coordinating with Japan and Taiwan, they'll crush us economically." "They'll crush us one by one anyway," Sanae replied. "Together we're too big to intimidate." In Canberra, the Australian defense minister was more direct. "We're in. China's been bullying us for years. Time to build something they can't control." But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Vietnam. The Vietnamese prime minister met her in a coffee shop in Ho Chi Minh City. No security, no entourage. Just 2 people drinking café soja. "You know why I agreed to this meeting?" he asked. "Because China occupies your territorial waters?" He smiled grimly. "That. And because my grandfather fought against occupation his entire life. First the French, then the Americans, now economically the Chinese. I will not let my country be a colony again." He pulled out a map. "We have bauxite, tungsten, manufacturing capacity, and 100 million people who would rather work with Japan than kowtow to Beijing." By month 9, Sanae had commitments from 6 countries, but she needed one more element: money. The project would cost $50 billion. Even split among partners, Japan's share was $15 billion. The cabinet would never approve it officially. Too provocative to China. So she went to the private sector. And then the Chinese government made their biggest mistake. In July 2022, China imposed a temporary restriction on rare earth exports to Japan. officially due to quality control concerns. In reality, punishment for Japan's support of Taiwan. Japanese manufacturers panicked. Stock markets dropped. Supply chains froze. The cabinet held an emergency meeting. The Prime Minister looked exhausted. "We need to negotiate. Apologize if necessary. We can't afford a trade war." Sanae spoke quietly but firmly. "Or we could use this moment to break free entirely." "That's impossible. It's already in motion," she interrupted. "I've been building an alternative network for 9 months. I just need authorization to activate it." The room exploded in arguments. Some ministers called her reckless. Others accused her of conducting unauthorized diplomacy. But the Prime Minister held up his hand. "Show me." Sanae pulled out a 300-page briefing. Supply chains, financial projections, political risk assessments, partnership agreements, everything. He read for 30 minutes. Nobody spoke, finally. "If this fails, it destroys us economically and politically." "If we do nothing," Sanae replied, "we're already destroyed. Just slowly." He signed the authorization. The document she was about to reveal would change everything. But first she needed one more signature. The hardest one, the United States. The Americans were complicated. They wanted to counter China. But they also didn't want Japan becoming too independent. A weak Japan needed U.S. protection. A strong Japan might not. Sanae met with the U.S. Secretary of Commerce in a secure room at the Tokyo Embassy. "We're building this network with or without you," she told him. "But with you, it's unbreakable. Without you, China has a chance to disrupt it." "What do you want?" "Semiconductor technology transfer, access to U.S. rare earth refineries, and a public commitment that the U.S. supports Asian supply chain independence." The Secretary laughed. "You're asking for things we've refused to give our closest allies." "I know, but you're also watching China dominate every critical industry. AI, quantum computing, biotech. How long before they don't need to invade Taiwan? They'll just own everything that matters economically." He stopped laughing. "If this network succeeds," Sanae continued, "it becomes the counterweight, not dominated by America, but aligned with American interests. A true partnership, not a dependency." 3 weeks later, the U.S. signed on. Quietly. A footnote in a broader trade agreement. But Sanae knew what it meant. They were ready. At 3 a.m. Tokyo time, the announcement went live simultaneously in 4 capitals. The Pacific Technology Alliance, a joint declaration of economic security. 7 countries, 50 billion initial investment, rare earth mining in India and Australia, semiconductor fabrication in Taiwan and Japan, component manufacturing in Vietnam and South Korea, research partnerships across all members. The goal: reduce dependence on Chinese supply chains from 90% to under 30% within 3 years. The global reaction was immediate. Wall Street opened up 400 points on tech stocks. European leaders called it the most significant geopolitical realignment since NATO. Economists compared it to the Marshall Plan. And Beijing? Beijing went silent for 12 hours. Beijing's response came faster than expected, and it was more desperate than anyone imagined. The Chinese Foreign Ministry called it an act of economic aggression. State media ran 24-hour coverage painting Japan as a puppet of U.S. imperialism. Chinese social media exploded with calls to boycott Japanese products. Then came the economic retaliation. China banned rare earth exports to all alliance members. Not temporary restrictions. Complete ban. Chinese customs delayed shipments from alliance countries. Sometimes for weeks. Chinese companies canceled billions in contracts with Japanese firms. The global media predicted catastrophe. Japan's economy in freefall. Takaichi's gamble backfires. Alliance crumbling under Chinese pressure. Sanae's approval ratings dropped 15 points in 2 weeks. In an emergency cabinet meeting, 3 ministers demanded her resignation. "You've started a war we can't win." She listened calmly. Then she opened her laptop. "Let me show you what happened this morning." The screen showed satellite images of a massive construction site in Kumamoto, southern Japan. This is the world's most advanced semiconductor fabrication plant, built in partnership with Taiwan Semiconductor and funded by the alliance. It goes operational in 6 weeks. Next image. a port in Chennai, India. This is where Indian rare earth minerals arrive for processing, using Japanese technology, Australian investment, and Vietnamese labor. First shipment arrives in 4 weeks. Next image. A research facility in Tsukuba. This is where we're developing alternative materials that don't require rare earth elements at all. Breakthrough expected in 8 months. She closed the laptop. China's ban was predictable. We planned for it. Every alliance member is sitting on 3 months of strategic reserves. By the time those run out, the new supply chains are operational. She paused. We didn't just build an alternative to China. We built an economy that doesn't need China. The room was silent. But the real shock came when the factory doors opened and the world saw what Japan had built. 6 weeks later, Kumamoto, the opening ceremony was carefully choreographed. Not just Japanese officials. Representatives from all 7 alliance countries. U.S. Commerce Secretary, Taiwan's Economic Minister, India's Trade Minister. But the real audience was watching via satellite. Beijing. The factory covered 20 hectares. Inside, clean rooms built to specifications that matched anything in the world. Robot arms moving with microscopic precision. Chips being manufactured that would power everything from smartphones to military hardware. Sanae cut the ribbon. Cameras flashed, but she didn't give the expected speech about technological achievement. Instead, she told a story. My grandfather survived World War II. He watched Japan rebuild from ashes. He always told me, true independence isn't military, it's economic. A country that depends on others for survival isn't truly free. She gestured to the factory. This isn't just about semiconductors. This is about 127 million Japanese people never again having to bow to economic coercion. Never again having another country weaponize trade against us. She looked directly at the camera. Everyone knew who she was talking to. We tried partnership with China. They chose to weaponize it. So we built something better. Something they can't control. Something they can't ban. The factory's first shipment went out that afternoon. Semiconductors to Japanese car manufacturers. Chips that would have come from China. Within a month, production hit 60% of projected capacity. Within 3 months, 85%. The alliance was working. Chinese manufacturers started losing contracts to alliance producers, not because of politics. Because of price and quality, Beijing had miscalculated. By banning exports, they'd accelerated the exact thing they feared, their own irrelevance. 6 months later, China would make an offer. What Sanae said in response became legendary. 6 months later, the message came through diplomatic channels. The Chinese premier wanted a personal meeting with Sanae in Beijing to discuss our mutual economic interests. Her advisors were split. Some saw it as an opportunity to de-escalate. Others suspected a trap. Sanae agreed to meet. But on one condition. The meeting would be live-streamed to both countries. The Chinese negotiators initially refused, then realized they had no leverage. Japan didn't need them anymore. If they wanted to salvage the relationship, they'd have to accept transparency. The meeting took place in the Great Hall of the People. Cameras rolling. The Chinese premier smiled warmly. Minister Takaichi, we've had our disagreements, but surely we can find common ground. China and Japan, working together for mutual prosperity. Sanae didn't smile back. Premier, with respect, we had that. You weaponized it. You used trade as punishment. You tried to strangle our economy because we wouldn't submit politically. That's a misunderstanding. No. Her voice was steel. It was crystal clear, and it taught us an important lesson. Never depend on someone willing to starve you to control you. The premier's smile faded. So here's what happens now, Sanae continued. The alliance is open to trade with China. Fair trade, market rate pricing, no political conditions. We'll buy your products if they're competitive, but we'll never again structure our economy to require your products. You're being unreasonable. I'm being independent, she interrupted. There's a difference. You taught us the value of that independence. Thank you for the lesson. She stood up. This meeting is over, but my door is open. When you're ready. To treat Japan as an equal partner, not a subordinate, we can talk. She walked out. The clip went viral within hours. Japanese social media exploded with national pride. Independent Japan trended globally, but more importantly, it sent a signal to every country watching. China's economic leverage was breakable. Within a year, 7 more countries applied to join the alliance. Within 2 years, Chinese dominance in critical tech sectors had dropped from 90% to 52%. Within 3 years, the balance of economic power in Asia had fundamentally shifted, and it all started with one woman who refused to accept that dependence was inevitable. Epilogue. Today Sanae stands in a high school in Osaka, speaking to students about career choices in STEM. A girl raises her hand. Minister Takaichi, the news says you defeated China. Is that true? Sanae smiles. No, I didn't defeat anyone. I just refused to let someone else control our future. But weren't you scared? China is so powerful. Terrified, Sanae admits. Every single day. But here's what I learned. Big doesn't mean invincible. It just means slow to adapt. She pulls up a slide showing the Alliance factory network. We were faster, smarter, more creative. Because we had to be. Because we didn't have the luxury of complacency. Another student. What would you say to people who say you're anti-China? I'd say they don't understand the difference between opposing a government's policy and opposing a people. I have nothing against Chinese people. I have everything against any government, including my own, that uses economic power to bully others. After the talk, her phone buzzes. A message from Taiwan's president. 3 more countries want to join. Your vision is becoming reality. Sanae looks out the window at Osaka's skyline. Factories humming, people working, an economy that's free because it's diversified. Her grandfather's dream, economic independence. Finally real. Not because Japan became the strongest, but because Japan refused to remain the most dependent. And that made all the difference.